Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's community meeting. It's March 18th, and we have quite a nice agenda because it's the first time that we are really focusing on community contributions. I think we don't have any Keptn maintainer contribution to present today, but it's really everything is from the community, for the community, so really excited to see what has been achieved by the community. So I think you can see my screen. As always, I will just ask you to also put in your names in the attendee list. I will share the document just in a second with all the participants. Just be reminded, we are a CNCF project. That means we're also following the code of conduct. So please be nice to each other, be respectful. But it's, as always, in our community meetings. Just a quick reminder also of what happened already this week. So for this meeting, actually, we don't have anything to clarify from the last meetings. I think we were all good on the presentation from last meeting. Then we already had the Keptn user group, more kind of Keptn adoption focused meeting, and more Keptn user-faced meeting. We had the user group on, I think it was on Tuesday, and we did a kind of a feature presentation of Keptn.8. If you have not seen it yet, if you're interested in how on all the changes from the previous version to the latest version of Keptn, or if you're also a Keptn developer and you're interested in how the new eventing is done, and how you can make use of multi-cluster support, then we have a video here. Make sure to watch the video. We did a kind of a deep dive on all the features. Also, Johannes was joining and explaining everything in clear detail. So make sure to watch this if you're interested in the highlights and also in the changes. I think we don't have anything else to share here. I'm just asking the maintainers if they have everything, if they have anything to share while I'm promoting our.
Yeah, just one remark from my side. Stay tuned. Next week, the 0.8.1 release is coming out and published. I think we will present it next week. At least the highlights that have been implemented in this dev meeting.
So it will be already released next week, or we just want to kind of give a preview?
No, it will be released.
Cool.
Yeah. Maybe also important to mention, we plan to have now monthly releases, meaning that every 4th week a new version is available and released, so that we can get faster feedback and also to roll out new features and the one or other bug fix more quickly. This means this will not be a heavy one, a heavy release, but with nice features in there, with a couple of bug fixes in there. And stay tuned to get to the latest updates.
Cool. Yeah, really looking forward to this one. With this, I already see Josh, hi, and Robert, hi, joining. Really great to have you. I think I'm handing over first to Josh, as you will be showing us on your the great Spellcheck bot that is now also active in Keptn. I already added a couple of links, but if you have something to, if you want to first present or then just show a little bit of your code, feel free. Stage is all yours. And
can I share a screen?
Yes, here we go.
Share screen. Okay.
Let me double check. But
no,
I think
I have it. The problem is that it's showing me a whole bunch of windows which all have the same icon of Google Chrome unknown. So I now have to figure out which one it actually is, because Zoom is not being my friend. So give me a moment. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I can also, if you want, we can pause the recording if you're accidentally sharing the wrong screen. And then you just let me know. So I'm just pausing here. Yeah, here we go, we're back. Yeah, I'm handing over to you, Josh. Take it away.
So first, I'm Josh, and as noted, we've added the check spelling bot. What's a word? I don't actually know too much about Keptn. I grew up in the United States, and there was a movie long before my time called Mary Poppins, which actually there was a recent kind of like sequel of sorts to Mary Poppins. So it might be in current zeitgeist. But there was this word of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and a song to go with it. It's a made-up word, and programmers make up words all the time. The problem, and because we do, you end up, your average spell checker does a really bad job, and people just end up ignoring them. So the spell checker here is able to understand some of the conventions that programmers have. If you change your case, it will treat that as a new word. So if you have super and then a capital Cali and a capital fragilistic and a capital Expia and a capital Lee and Docious, it will actually be able to recognize that super's a word and Cali's a word. Well, a word that it will think about whether it's a word. And in this case, super and Cali are already in the dictionary. So the only things you actually have to add are fragilistic, Expia, and Docious. Lee is actually a sound from music, I believe. And basically you would generally, for this, you would add them to expect, saying we expect them to be in the corpus, but they're not really words. Otherwise, if they were really words for our purpose, we would add them to the dictionary itself. The difference is basically if at some point you decide that you don't want to have supercalifragilisticexpialidocious in your dictionary, in your code you've just removed entirely, you don't want somebody to accidentally add it in as a typo for some other word. And so the bot will recommend to remove things when it no longer sees them in the corpus. So you have checks. There are two main actions that the bot currently responds to. That one is pushes, which is ideal for if you're making a change and you want to test it before you make your pull request. If you have a fork, you just push your branch straight to GitHub. The action can run on that branch and report its issues before you make the pull request. So you don't actually have anybody else see that you've made a typo. And then the action that we're currently using for Keptn is pull request target. So it's configured to actually look at the merge between the master, I believe, and your pull request. And it will, if it doesn't like it, it will give you a cute little X. And I'd actually encourage Keptn to block merges on these so that you don't actually end up with the errors appearing when somebody else makes a fork and tries to make a extra change past that, because the bot is not currently paying any attention to whose fault that there's something that it doesn't know about. It just complains about it because it sees it. So basically you would add an extra check in the configuration. Now, there are two main ways to ignore files. One is excludes. So recently the test files were added as a pattern to exclude so that the bot will ignore them entirely. And it is also possible to, beyond that, use only to say, the only directory I care about is, for instance, a docs directory. And it would first apply the exclusions, and then it would say, oh, well, the only things you care about are in docs, and I will only check those. If you do choose to make the spell checker mandatory, you have to make sure it runs. Otherwise, GitHub will sort of wait forever. It's just a minor warning. And I highly recommend making the check required. It's pretty easy to talk to the bot. It'll be even easier in the near future. And it's usually not so unreasonable. So this is sort of what you will normally see from the bot. It says, I saw some things, I don't think they're right. But if they are, it gives you information about how to accept them. So in this case, repository was missing an O. I think this was supposed to be something, but it ended up not like that. And updating has an extra E. When you are looking at a pull request, it will actually, if you're in the review version, it will actually try and show you where it found it. In this case, updating is around the 6th word in the line. And unfortunately, GitHub only shows you the first 10 of these warnings. So if you have a whole bunch of new words, you're going to actually want to look at the log instead. And it will tell you the line numbers, which columns they are. And it's pretty easy to respond to. Now, if you click on the accept thing, it will give you a command that you can just sort of run, and it will just, as long as you have Git and Perl, it will just clean up things for you. In this case, there were some stale words that had, I guess, been either removed or added to the dictionary. I'm in either the next release or the release after, you should actually be able to just talk to the bot and it will just do it for you. But right now, the easiest way is just copy and paste into a terminal and let it go. You can, of course, also manually remove the items. Basically, in this case, there's an expect file, and these are individual lines in the expect file. You just remove them. And similarly, if you add these 3 items into it, that's all it takes. The expect file would like to be ordered alphabetically, but the bot doesn't really care. So yeah, you copy and paste the suggestions, and it does things. So if you're going to use it for your own project, there is a repository which has, which is called Spellcheck this, which just has a pre-canned configuration to make it easy for people, including the ability to deal with the merge. Generally, there's excludes, which I've mentioned, and only. If you have a line which has maybe some test content or some binary content, you can use a pattern to exclude it. Ideally, you're doing this either for something that's just a one-off or for a mask. Maybe every time you call a certain function, it's always garbage data that's just not words that you shouldn't be checking. Patterns will help you with that. Unfortunately, I don't currently have a way to handle multi-line comments or things like a multi-line comment. Probably with the next couple of versions, I'll write a way to do that. It will probably be a different file because the format for it is probably significantly different. So the bot supports a base dictionary. Right now it has one main dictionary, which is fairly expansive, but is not particularly geared to code. I'm still in the process of collecting basically which words might end up being a more technically focused dictionary. And then you have the ability to create an allow file, or really a directory of them, which is where you're adding extra words to the dictionary. And then reject lets you remove words from the dictionary. For instance, there's a word SPAE, which is in the dictionary because it's a word, but on average, I've only seen as a typo for space. So if you would want to remove SPA from the dictionary, you can just add it to reject. And then as far as the bot's concerned, it will be as if it wasn't in the dictionary at all. So if somebody types SPAE instead of SPACE, it'll complain about it. And then expect is, again, where it's looking for things that are not in the dictionary, but which it found. In our case, the example, XPO or docious. Then there's the ability to add advice. So for one of the projects that's using the bot, it seemed useful to tell people about binary files as a hint. So this content here at the bottom is from adding an advice file with some GitHub markdown. And basically every time it writes a comment, it will include that. Things that are coming, the next version should have probably at least twice as fast because it will actually be checking 2 files concurrently. And it will actually start recognizing when it encounters a file which is roughly binary or gibberish. So these 2 things about UDB init and the build scripts init file, the files ended up being just basically noise. There wasn't really real content. And so it's actually suggesting, it says, well, I skipped these files, and you can add them to excludes to speed it up and have it not check them in the future. So that's maybe even by the end of the month. And then the thing I'm really looking forward to is this, where you'll just actually talk to the bot by quoting the line that it suggests, and it will actually automatically make a commit, cleaning up the expect file for you. So that's you selecting the line, quote reply, click comment, and it makes the commit. It obsoletes its comments, and if you want, you can see the commit that it generated. And some deployments. I have a couple of different projects at Microsoft that they're using it. Managed to actually convince the group at NASA to use it, which was really cool. And thank you, Keptn, for joining. And questions.
Really cool stuff.
Cool.
Actually, I kind of experienced the bot today because we got a commit or a pull request actually from a Keptn user, and he was adding this to the company he's working for to the Keptn adopters list, and the company name is not a real word, so the company name is Kitopi. And your bot immediately came up and telling us this is actually, yeah, might be a made-up word, might be a typo. Yeah.
Yeah. So initially, I didn't actually exclude the adopters file, and the argument I had to myself was that it is likely that if I'm a company, first of all, company names are things that get misspelled all the time. But if I'm adding myself to adopters, then that is actually a good way to say that word should be in the list of things so that when I actually mention myself elsewhere in the code, it should be expected to be spelled correctly. But given that it was not added in response to it, I've just made a pull request suggesting to exclude the adopters file. Either way works. My preference in general is to actually check as many files as possible and add things to dictionaries. That way you catch more mistakes. It also means that you're consistently using the same word both in your tests, your documentation, and in your code. But it's up to the project how they want to do it. So the current pull request I made on that was just exclude the adopters file entirely.
Yeah. As you've shown in the next release of your bot, it will be able to kind of do an automatic commit to include or exclude words.
Yep.
So in Keptn, we are using, or DCO has to be enabled, or we are following this. So every commit has to be signed. So I'm wondering if you can automatically also sign the commits. Otherwise, we would have to kind of it will be committed to an exclude file that lives inside Keptn, right? Or is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. Thank you. Yeah. So right now, it generates the commit and it blames the user in terms of the authorship, but it doesn't include a DCO. I can certainly include a DCO. It's not much work. So yeah, thank you. This is why it's still in pre-release. I haven't ironed out enough of the edges. So yeah, I can probably do that, maybe even tonight. The feature is not ready yet. Yeah, absolutely. The feature is unfortunately not ready because the metadata that it's stashing is in a place which works fine for public repositories, but it doesn't work for private repositories. And since my employer is one of the users, and our repositories are mostly private, I can't ship the feature until I get it working for that, which is, but as soon as I get it working for private repositories, I'll be able to make it generally available. On the other hand, if Keptn wants to use it in pre-release, I'm happy to, once we get the DCO working, I'm happy to set Keptn up using it there or here.
Cool. Yeah, I think it would be a great feature to have. Really cool. I'm just curious. Oh, sorry, Johannes, go ahead.
I'm also curious. Is there a team behind this bot and behind this Spellcheck, or is it just you?
It's just me. I use various channels to talk out features, but no, it's just me. It's a side project. I've been doing spell checking of random stuff for like 2 decades. I do it for lots of reasons. One is it lets me figure out how healthy is a project, how easy it is for me to contribute any small change. Also, it's really frustrating, both like trying to read documentation, which has typos, or trying to use a product where the user interfaces just has things that are misspelled. And of course, if something's misspelled, searching for it is just a disaster. And so, yeah, I've iterated over this in various languages in various ways. And it seemed like at a certain point, oh, GitHub has this cool way to anchor it. Initially, somebody asked about making it a CI, and I actually did a version for one project, which was just a, I think it was a Travis hook, or it was for, I think it was Travis. But at a certain point, GitHub Actions became a great way to do it. So now it's available this way. And I mean, there are other features that I'm looking at. There, in fact, the wiki has a whole list of features that I would like to do. Some of the next things are like adding well, not customizable, but like standard word lists for things like HTML or CSS or various languages. But things like that, somebody else could make a pull request, and I will work on integrating it once I figure out how I want it to work. But thankfully, for the most part, it just works almost always. I mean, occasionally there'll be downtime. Like a couple days ago, GitHub had an outage, so actions weren't working at all. But other than that, it's pretty much always going to work. And I'm available. You can just @ me in GitHub. And I'm on the Keptn Slack. At some point, it might not scale, but I'm hoping it'll scale reasonably well.
Cool. Yeah, thanks so much. It's really a great project, and I think it already saved us some typos. So it's really cool.
And as we are discussing or talking right now about this feature, I also thought we should actually add it to our documentation, because there is where we have quite a lot of content, and also would make sense to use the spell checker there.
And for the tutorials.
True.
Yeah, it's a lot of written words, so it's not. It's actually markdown files. Yeah.
As you can see, it doesn't really care. It works just as well on Markdown or code or comments or any format. So, yeah, I'm happy to help set it up, or you can give it a try on your own by just using the spell checklist repository or copying the config straight out of the Keptn repository. It should be pretty easy, and I'd actually really be quite happy if somebody else tried to do it without my hand-holding, because I'd love to get the feedback of, oh, I just did it and it just worked, or oh, I stumbled on this or that and needed a bit of help. I find the best way to improve a product is letting somebody else use it and taking their feedback and say, so what actually did you trip on? What did you need help with? And actually improving those bits.
I'm adding this to the meeting doc as an action item to also have for the Keptn docs and Keptn tutorials. And we can follow up then in the next meeting on this.
Yep.
It's really cool. Cool. Any more questions or feedback for Josh? Because if not, thanks so much. We are. Oh, do you have more slides you want to?
Well, just for reference, basically there is a wiki, there is a spell checklist, which is the template repository, and then the marketplace action. And yeah, so that's it. But thank you.
Thanks so much. Because then we will be handing over from the Spellcheck to the Shellcheck. It's actually when I was going through the notes for today, I was like, oh, why do we have it twice? But we don't have it twice. It's two different things. So Robert, it's your turn. Thanks for your contribution, and I'm curious to learn more.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me share real quick. Yeah, so this is a PR I put out there a couple weeks ago to incorporate a Shellcheck action. Yeah, there was some spelling mistakes I fixed in this PR too, but yeah, so like here, here's how the action works. Basically, it's pretty simple to define. It'll work on push or pull requests. So like if somebody pushes to their fork, they'll still get the deal here, and basically it checks the syntax. So let me actually show you a failure for it real quick. Like I was doing some testing here. So here I was testing a failure if, yeah, so like I echoed an unquoted variable here. I don't even think the variable was defined too, but it was, you know, it kind of tells you like, you know, something that you should, you know, like look into fixing. And if you, you know, search Google for whatever the error code is, like you'll find the official wiki by Koalaman. So yeah, this isn't a project I maintain. This is somebody else's project. But yeah, I absolutely love his tool and like, or her tool, their tool. I love their tool. And they, you know, show you programmatic code, correct code, as well as like a whole rationale, you know, like, so I think in this issue here, like if you don't code a variable properly, you know, and there's like spaces in that variable. So say like it's a file path and there's a space in there, it could prove problematic depending on the shell version that you're using. Which is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't have a really cool slide or anything like that. It was just, yeah, I wanted to touch base on it really quickly and then also kind of, you know, like let everybody know how to ignore a rule if something like, if a rule needs to be ignored. I think there's a couple examples here. Sorry, I should have gotten an example right off the bat.
I have a reminder for Robert.
Thanks Google. So here you can ignore something for the entire file. And I think this was the exit code. So like, one of the common things we do is like if $? is not equal to 0. I think if we look this up, it's saying basically, you know, the correct code that they would recommend would be like, if you're doing like grep, you know, some contents in some file, do if not grep, you know, or if not, in this example, make. So then it's able to, you know, like have the remediation actions. But I didn't want to change the code too much when I was learning the shell script, so I didn't make those changes, and instead I ignored it on the entire file. Or you can ignore on a single line too, like if there's, yeah, here's an example here. I forgot what this was for. Okay, yeah, I guess this was double quoting. I should have fixed that, but yeah, that's how you can ignore the next line instead of like, you know, ignoring it for the entire file, because there might be certain situations where you might want to ignore, you know, one specific syntax, you know, what the linter would consider a syntax issue that you might not consider a syntax issue, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, we were able to lend all the shell scripts and now have it working on, I don't know why my GitHub's looking so weird right now. Now have it working on there. Does anybody have any questions about like this change or like how it might impact them?
I really think it helps us to write better code, as it's all these the spell check or the shell check error codes you showed. They have also this rationale behind and kind of helping us to take a look if we really want to follow their recommendations or if we want to follow others. But it's, yeah, really cool. Actually, I didn't know that it exists. Cool that you added it to our project. So I think, but I haven't been coding on the shell scripts for a couple of for quite a while now. So if maybe someone is on the call who has more experience with this, so maybe even got already recommendations from the Shellcheck, please comment on this.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of linting personally, because, you know, not every situation you can write unit tests, and you know, I think shell scripts are one of those things that's hard to write unit tests for, or like, you know, quality checks for Docker files. You know, in the future, I'd like to also contribute another linting tool. I was thinking either like Hodolint or Godolint are a couple of tools for like linting Docker files to, make recommendations on quality.
Yeah, I think it's a great it's a great thing. Everything that helps with keeping up the quality high and doing this linting. As you said, unit testing for shell scripts might not be that easy. So that's really cool. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Yeah, so thanks for sharing these two contributions. Thanks for adding also everything to the document. Just making this link. Are there any other, let's say, agenda items that are not in the agenda yet that we want to cover in today's meeting?
Not from my side. I just can recommend watching the feature the video that Jürgen mentioned at the beginning, as it shows really the new features of Keptn 0.8 and how you can use them. This is what I would recommend. But other than that, I don't have any item for today.
Okay, cool. Then thanks everyone. Oh, one thing I want to highlight because it was just released a couple of minutes before our meeting. We will update this. We will update the landing page to go to Keptn 0.8 quite soon. But we were just waiting for more tutorials to be finished and to be ready. And just a couple of minutes ago or hours ago, we got a new community contribution. It's a Keptn in the box, and it's a really neat way to start with Keptn without a full-grown Kubernetes cluster in the public cloud, but actually running this with I think it's micro Kubernetes. Micro Kubernetes on a VM. So the idea is, or the tutorials from Sergio, and the idea is just to launch a EC2 instance, Ubuntu-based EC2 instance, and then you can run this, and it will basically create everything that you would create in the full tutorial with Keptn. It will create everything for you, and then you can just kind of learn from this, and you can click through, you can then do all the use cases, but you don't have to set it up by yourself. Everything is automated for you. The whole installation, I think, takes about 5 to 10 minutes. But then you get all the services on board. You have Keptn installed. You have the first evaluation of the quality gates already. You have your SLIs, your SLOs, everything's there for you. So if you ever need a working Keptn environment, you can get started with this. It will set up the whole thing within 10 minutes and you're good to go. I just want to highlight this. He will also join us in one of the next meetings, or we'll do a video together. So anyway, we'll try to also make this more popular, but I just wanted to share it with you first. So it's something in the chat. So let me just double check.
Just added the links that Robert posted to the document so that we don't lose them.
Yes, thank you. Perfect. And there was one comment about the airplane. Robert, what was that?
Oh yeah, I was just saying, yeah, the Keptn in a box concept is pretty cool. It would be nice to, like whenever the pandemic is over, and people start traveling again, if maybe there was like a mini cube, like set up that we could do instead of like, like an EC2 setup, so that, there would be like a Keptn in a box with Minikube or something.
Yes, so I think you could also run it with micro Kubernetes on your local machine. That should work. We also have a Keptn on K3s, Keptn on keys, but it's a little bit smaller installation, and we usually use it only for the quality gate or the auto remediation use case, and not for Keptn full installation. But we will come up with more options to basically make it also developer friendly, to just have it on your local machine and then Now I get it with this airplane mode, yeah, so that it's easier to just create it on your machine and then get going. Okay, then thanks everyone for joining. I don't see any more questions in the chat here, also not added to the document. So again, thanks everyone. Thanks Josh and Robert for presenting, really appreciate your contributions. And yeah, our next Keptn community meeting and development meeting is then next week. And I'm already looking forward to Keptn 0.8.1. And yeah, have a great evening or a great rest of your day. Enjoy and see you all next week. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.